For more on the passing of Muhammad Ali, we're joined by journalist and boxing commentator Paul Upham. Paul, what is the legacy of Muhammad Ali here in Australia?
He has a wonderful legacy on two aspects. One, his boxing career, greatest heavyweight of all time, the fastest, the most flashy, three-time heavyweight world champion. But then the out-of-the-ring aspects as well, that he was a civil libertarian. He wanted to help the rights of people around the world. He gave his money away, he gave his time to charities, and it was just fantastic what he did for people outside the ring.
I do note that we've also been hearing from an Australian boxer, Anthony Mundine in particular, who we might say has modelled himself somewhat on the great.
A lot of people have tried to do that.
Yeah.
And look, Anthony had his own wonderful boxing career. I saw him yesterday and he spoke very highly of how he inspired. And I think that there was black people around the world, you saw on that report there, how much they were inspired to lift themselves up in their own life because of what Muhammad Ali did inside and outside the ring.
There is some discussion taking place about whether it's appropriate to talk about what caused this. What's your view on how this has all emerged? Because it's widely accepted, it seems, that his boxing career continued for longer than it should have.
Look, we've seen a number of reports of the recent Will Smith movie about the concussion impact syndrome and how that's affecting American football players. And I don't think anybody has any doubt that those extra fights at the end of his career hurt him, and there's no doubt about that. But he never wanted people to feel sorry for him. He felt that he had a fabulous life, he had a happy life, he did everything he wanted to do, and people shouldn't be sad. And as sad a day as this around the world, for everybody who loved him, it also gives us opportunity to look back at that wonderful historic footage. The way you said, you know, he rapped. He was probably the first rapper. He was the first trash talker. But he did it. It wasn't never in a mean-spirited way. There was a happiness to it, and he was a self-promoter.
I mean, I do note that he is just such a mix of so many qualities. The confidence but humility, his great physical prowess but his intellect as well, and his humour. I mean, you can't really go past that combination, can you?
Well, back then, for someone to say, look how pretty I am, that was highly unusual. And in boxing circles, back then the promoter and the manager did all the talking. The great heavyweight Joe Louis very rarely spoke about himself. It was other people. Muhammad Ali came out and people were shocked in the 60s to see this, the way that he was self-promoting and he was so confident and he made these predictions, I'm going to knock this opponent out in this many rounds, and he went out and did that, and people were stunned by that. It had never been seen. Today it's commonplace. Everyone tries to imitate Muhammad Ali, but there was only one original.
What do you think helps a sportsman or a sportswoman make that transition from, you know, being trash talking, of which, as you say, there are a lot of sports people who try to do that, to actually becoming someone who sticks in the public consciousness the way Muhammad Ali did?
Well, first of all, he had to have the talent, and he certainly had the talent and the skills, and he had the gift of the gab. He was able to speak so well, but I think he was sincere. So that he put his career, and people forget, as good as a fighter he was, he set out for 3 prime years of his career from 26 to 29, and we never probably even saw the best of him as good as he was. And people could see that his religious convictions meant so much to him that he was prepared to give up money and his career and the heavyweight championship of the world, which back then was a huge honour, a huge chair of the world. So people could see that he really, truly believed in what he was saying.
All right, well, let's focus on Muhammad Ali in the ring. So I understand he won his first Olympic medal at the age of 18, is that correct?
In
And went on to have a career spanning 3 decades.
The thing about Muhammad Ali, which we don't see today, is that he fought everybody. If somebody thought they were better than him, he wanted that fight. He didn't put obstacles in the way, and 1970s was seen to be the toughest heavyweight era of any time, and he dominated that. And he put himself forward to do whatever it could to make the biggest fights, where today we saw Mayweather and Pacquiao took 6 years to come to fruition. Muhammad Ali would never let that happen. He wanted the best fights because he truly believed he was the greatest.
I've read one of his terrific quotes yesterday that said, "If you dream you beat me in the ring, you better wake up and apologise."
so many wonderful quotes, and as you said, you know, he had the gift of the gab. But even little things, I saw on my Twitter feed yesterday was a photo of a man, a suicide jumper on top of a building, and Muhammad Ali's looking out the window there and talked the man to come in. Things like that. He put himself above everybody else, not above everybody else, but he put himself out there for everybody else. He gave back to the people.
Above the sport, which is what's really important.
He did. There was a humility there. As much as he was arrogant and over the top, when it came down to dealing one-on-one with people, as you saw in that report, he touched people in their hearts and he inspired them. And to me, that's what made him truly great.
So how did his opponents view him? Because he's sort of fearsome, and really likeable at the same time.
He initially he was seen as a braggart over the top, and they said this guy's not going to last. He's going to get knocked out. But as his career went on, and he showed the talent and skills, he did have a ruthless streak. There was a fighter who wouldn't call him by his name, Muhammad Ali, and as Muhammad Ali kept on knocking him down, he kept on saying him in the ring at the time, "What's my name? What's my name?" But you've got to have that ruthless streak to be the best, to be the number one in your sport.
What do you make of his strategic approach in the ring as well? I mean, I just read a little bit about how he was approaching the rumble in the jungle with George Foreman, and that this was a very formidable opponent for him, someone with incredible stamina.
People were worried. They said Muhammad Ali is going to get hurt. George Foreman, unbelievable knockout artist. And he did the opposite. He said, I'm going to dance, I'm going to move. But at that stage, he probably couldn't do that anymore. He stayed on the ropes. He soaked up the punishment from George Foreman. He had a chin. He could take a punch. He had heart that he could do that. And he just wore George down. And it was the most stunning way. Not that he just won, the way that he did it, but probably in that maybe contributed to Parkinson's in the end. And that's the sad thing about that.
All right, Paul Upham, it's terrific to have you in the studio with us. Thank you very much. Look, I just wanted to ask you one final question about the final legacy, about how this impacts on young people going into the future. I mean, there was a 1978 Time magazine cover that said this man is not going to disappear into history quietly. What about now? What about beyond now? And what legacy is left behind with young people today?
I think he'll always be remembered. He was unique, and that you could see how he inspired people around the world. At one stage in the 70s, he was the most recognisable person on the whole planet, and he spoke to people and they loved him for that, and the way that he delivered and the way he spoke, and it was very inspiring for people. And I think he'll always be remembered because he was unique and he was sincere in what he was doing.
Indeed he will. Paul Upham, wonderful to have you join us this morning. Thank you very much for your time.